Hey everyone. I think there's only one of you right now, but that's totally cool. Hoping a few more people will show up. I know it's been a long time since I've streamed, so and I know it's last minute. I'm always that spontaneous person who doesn't stick to his schedule very well. So glad you're here. Glad you're hanging out with me, and excited to kind of do some code. I have a lot of work I need to get done in the next few weeks, and I'm probably gonna stream a bunch of it. So yeah, that's what it is. Am I doing 60 frames per second? I thought I only had it up for 30, but cool if that's what it is. Brosif Daddy Pants says, so that's what you look like in person. Yeah, big beard and bald head, and I wear a hat a lot, so wear hoodies all the time too. So yeah, Brosif, I don't think I recognize your name. If you wouldn't mind giving me your Twitter handle, it'd be great to know, just so I can put handles together in my brain. But Chris, good to see you. Jingles, good to see you too. Thanks for subscribing. This should be fun. So, to give you a lowdown on what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to try and build a graph data structure using test-driven development. And I know what a graph is. I'll explain it to you in a minute. But I was kind of struggling today to decide how I want to teach this. So the reason I need to teach this isn't just to you folks here who happen to be watching. Um, I'm teaching it because I've had the fortune of being selected for making a course for Egghead's December promotion. And I'm making an intro to data structures and algorithms course. And so excuse me, my beer is causing me to burp a little bit. I only have a handful of weeks to get everything done, and that's cool. I love deadlines. Good pressure. It really helps me focus and get shit done. Um, and so yeah, I need to go about making this, and this will be some of the material that ends up in the course. So that's what we're doing tonight. Got it, Brosif. Cool. So feel free to ask me any questions. Hopefully my commands are working. Some of you might remember I have these I'm not even logged into my own Twitch chat, so I can't say anything. So we'll get this going. I think it's gonna ask me for two-factor authentication. We'll see if it does. No, it should remember this computer. Never save this password. I don't trust that crap. Um, all right, let's see if these commands are working. You might know there's some custom commands here. There you go. Custom commands in the chat that can get you information on like my editor and all this stuff. Although that actually needs to be updated because I'm using VS Code tonight. I know some of y'all have been really wanting me to do that. So, all right, let's look at what we need to do. And if you wouldn't mind doing this for me, if you see the tweet out there, please retweet it or whatnot. Let people know this is going. I love to have a crowd. So, Brosif asks, how's the job hunt going? The job hunt is like a lot of hunts. It's a mixed bag. I put that tweet out a few months ago that got a lot of response, but it wasn't specifically I don't know. I just got a lot of responses from people that weren't really fitting what I was looking for. Not as many responses as I was hoping for things I was. But that's okay. That's how things go. And so I also knew I had a vacation coming up. I just went on vacation a few weeks ago, and I knew it would get in the middle of anything. So this week has been really the first week I'm like diving in every day, reaching out to people, hitting up my network, trying to figure stuff out. So I'll have more news for you hopefully soon. The goal is you know all I want for Christmas is a job that I enjoy, a job that I enjoy, a job that I enjoy. That's kind of my mantra in my head right now. Okay, so I don't know how many of you know what test-driven development is. I imagine many of you do, but in case you don't, let me give you a really quick like introduction to test-driven development. The idea is that instead of writing the code for whatever we're doing, the API that we're creating first, and then writing tests for it, we write the tests first, and we make the code make the test pass. You'll often hear it described as a process of going from red to green and then refactoring. Red meaning a failed test, green meaning a test that passes, and then refactoring, like once we get it passed, we can do whatever we need to make it better or cleaner. What's great about this is, really quick, AVH4, thank you for hosting the stream. Really appreciate it. What's great about test-driven development is that you define your API before you're writing it. You really get a sense of like, what would I like to get out of this interface, and not only that, it gives you a lot of security knowing that you're doing it well. It helps you find bugs quicker, edge cases quicker. And when you go to refactor, you can have a lot of trust that your stuff is still working because your tests continue to pass. Like when you try and refactor it and you're like, oh, I broke the test, that means you didn't get back to where you were. And so you need to go fix that. And that's a really good thing. Frankly, through a lot of my career's not super long. My career's only been about 5 years, coming up in, well, November in a couple weeks. I can always remember it was November 11th, so 11/11, really easy to remember. But like most of that, I haven't had to do testing to the last few years. And so I've had to really work hard on learning it myself. And I know for a lot of you, maybe it's not something natural to you, but I hope you'll work to put it as part of your workflow. Because honestly, you make better software, you make better decisions when you have tests. I really do believe that. Yeah. So let me walk you through like how I have this set up. You could probably go to GitHub right now if you want. I'm going to switch to... I'm going to try and switch. There we go. I'm going to switch to this. I'm going to pull up GitHub right now. Brownie Feds, I haven't updated that. I am using VS Code right now. So, and I'm using the Night Owl theme. So I need to update that. But I'm giving VS Code a try. I'll tell you what, I really love the IntelliSense. But I don't know. I've liked it for the most part. There's just a few things that still kind of bug me, but it's been pretty good. I've been doing it for about a week and a half. I might stick with it. I don't know. IntelliSense is really hella handy. So, okay. I was going to GitHub to show you the repo. If you want to look at it, it's a really long name. Intro to Data Structures and Algorithms. You can check out this repo, give it a star if you like. I know it's not at a place that you even care to start, but that's how devs live. We're like vampires, but with stars, I guess. I don't know. I'm making shit up. You know that. But this is the repo we're working on, and specifically we're working in graphs. And just every directory in here has an index file, a test file, and then a script file that I need to write for the script I'm going to do. It helps me when I'm making lessons to just kind of at least walk through what I want to say. That helps me out quite a bit. So let's go back to our code. I'm going to show you this file that I have here is the index file for it. We haven't built any part of our API yet. We're just going to create a function called createGraph that's going to return us the graph data structure when we use it. And then let me pull up the index test file for graphs. And right now, this is the very simple tests that I have for our graphs. I have a describe block that's for our graph. Before each one, I'm going to create a new graph. I'm reassigning the same variable with a let graph, and each time I get a new graph. And then so every time a test block is run, we get a fresh graph. That's really important when you're writing tests because you might think you're getting a false positive if you're not resetting things properly. So my very first test, I'm just calling it existence. I want to test that it exists, so I expect graph to be defined. And we're actually failing right now. So I'm going to run all the tests again real quick. I have tests in other parts of the code base too, so you might see some of that. But the graph test should fail because we're not returning anything. So right now, expect is receiving undefined. And that's because when we have this, we just have our function. It's not returning anything, so it's returning... it's returning by default a void. It's returning undefined. Every function that you don't explicitly return something returns undefined. So little JavaScript knowledge for you there. So let's return something that's defined. Since this is a factory function, factory functions are functions that return objects to us. They're a different way of making. Oh, man! I do this every time. I always need someone to remind me that I am. I always need someone to remind me that I'm in monologue mode. That's funny. Thank you, Frosty. You're the best. All right, let's try that again. I do this every time. You can see the code here for the tests. In the tests, I make a new graph for each one. So before each test gets run, the graph gets refreshed. Like I said, old data can make your test a false positive. And the first test we're doing is existence. It's failing because graph doesn't return anything right now. Our create graph function just returned, well, before I wrote this, returned nothing, which is the same as returning undefined. That's called a void, and that's just how the language works. And so in order to return something defined like I expect, I'm going to start by returning an object. Let's save it. Our tests should automatically run because I have them in watch mode. They'll get faster. I think my computer is a little slow at the moment. It's also trying to run every test in it for some reason, so hopefully it won't keep doing that. Okay, so we have everyone passed. I'm sure some people are seeing the stream choppy. I'm going to be perfectly honest. My internet has been complete crap for weeks, and there's nothing I can do. You gotta love the world we live in America. You know, gotta love those monopolistic internet service providers that fuck you over. Just putting it out there. All right, I'm actually gonna undo this. npm run test watch. See if it'll help it go a little bit faster the next time that it's only hopefully doing the graphs test. Cool. Graph existence. It works. Sweet. So this is TDD. So let's come up with our next test. I need a sip of beer in order to do this though. All right. So I haven't defined what a graph is yet. Let me do that. I'm gonna write like a comment here. How's the font size for everyone? Is it big enough? It probably could be a bit bigger, I'm guessing. All right. A graph. So a graph is a set of nodes and a set of edges. Sometimes these nodes are called vertices, so each one is a vertex, and an edge might be called a line, but essentially a graph is a collection of nodes, and these nodes point to each other. They have references to each other. Graphs can be directed, as in those edges or lines have a particular direction, or they can be undirected, meaning they're just a connection. And a good way to think about it is they're symmetrical in connection. So if I have a node A and a node B and an edge AB, in a directed graph, it might be A to B. And in an undirected graph, it's just A to B and B to A. That's a good way to think about it. Graphs are an excellent way to like think about certain collections of data. A tree, for example, is a type of graph, and we all deal with trees. At least all of us who are web developers, we deal with trees all the time. The DOM is called a DOM tree because it's a tree shape. We have a root element at the top as our HTML, and that's a node. A root is a node, and then each child is also a node, but in a tree, we can't have any cycles. A graph can have cycles, meaning that like 3 nodes can all touch each other, and you can just have an infinite loop between them if you follow them. A tree can't have that, and we'll get into trees as part of the course that I'm building, and maybe I'll stream that at some point too. But so a graph, like I said, set of nodes and a set of edges. So we want to keep that in mind as we're creating this. So I think maybe the best way to start our TDD is to define some kind of API that we want to be able to get back. So Perhaps the first thing we need, because every graph needs to have nodes, is we should create a test for an add node method. And this is where we have to start making decisions about what we want our API to kind of be like. Because in order to test it, we have to have some idea what we're going to get back. So I have a graph created in before each, and I'm going to define a method that we haven't created yet. If I had it created, it would show up in this this thing. Right now, it's just giving me the default object methods that it could have. But we're going to call add node, and when we create a node, we want to pass it something. We need it to be defined by some value. We'll probably call that like a name property on the node or a key property on the node. So I'm just going to pass the letter A. And then my test should be, I want to expect my graph to have the node A somehow. So I have to decide what I want my nodes to be. So perhaps I want it to return nodes something, like if I do graph.nodes, I want to get back the nodes. And then somewhere in those nodes, I want to be able to find that I have a node with the key of A in this case, or that I have a node itself as A. In TDD, we often want to make things as simple as possible to start with. So what I'm going to do is make it an array. We may change this later, but we'll say I want the graph nodes to include A, and this will put to be true. And we'll save that, and we should get a failed test for a number of reasons. And man, it's really taking a long time to run those tests. When I don't have everything running, those tests run like that. Ahi says, good to have you back. I'm paraphrasing, but good to see you too, Ahi. Alrighty, so we have a failed test. Graph.addNode is not a function, so we need to make it a function. So we'll start here. We'll create an addNode method, and we'll save it. We'll let the test run. It'll be defined, but we'll get a failure. So includes doesn't exist. Why? Because includes nodes is undefined, so we need to define nodes somehow. Well, I'm using includes because includes is on the array prototype. So let's make nodes an array that we can return. I'm going to start off by making a nodes array here in the closure of my function, and I'll set it to an array because we've decided that includes is what I'm going to try and do with the test. So that means the type I need to give back is an array. I might change that, but that's that. Now, I don't want to just pass nodes here. I mean, I can here. This should work. Nodes would end up being a reference to this nodes. Let's just save it and see what happens. Include should pass, but then the test should fail. So okay, we got to the to be part, and it wasn't true. We expected true, we got false, and why? Because we haven't added the node yet. So at this point, we'll just call it node, and what we'll do is we will push our node into the nodes array. And I'm hoping this works. Man, these tests are taking a long time. All right, so add node works. So what's the next thing we need to do? Well, in a graph, we might want to get back, we need to be able to add edges, right? So let's write a test for adding an edge. I'm gonna shrink up this window just a bit so I get a little more window space here. Okay, so in order to add an edge, my graph is going to need to have a couple nodes. So let's add several nodes. We'll add an A and we'll add a B. And then I want to call my add edge, and we'll call it with A and B. Oh, what am I doing there? You ever notice sometimes your fingers just do things without really thinking about it? All right. So what do I want to expect out of this? Well, somehow I have to decide how I want to determine that this edge was added and verify it. So expect graph. There's a number of ways we can do this. So one thing we can consider is that a node as its own data structure, right? A node not only has maybe a name, like we're giving it something. Right now we're just calling that node a string. But perhaps the node itself is a slightly bigger data structure. Maybe this string is actually like a key that we want to give it, or a name, like I said. But each node in a graph, if you think about it, it has children. Like I talked about the tree being a graph, right? And so a tree has a root and then can have children, and each child can have children, and each child can have children. The same thing is true in a graph, though you might not call them children. They might just be neighbors or something like that. But a graph data structure, I have my Cracking the Coding interview near me, and they have a whole chapter on trees and graphs. And so I'm going to stuff a picture in your face. But like you'll see something like I can't do backward shit. There we go. Let me try and rotate. This is really hard. There we go. You see a bunch of nodes, and they all point to each other. They're not really hierarchical. They just happen to exist next to each other, and some of them point to each other. So our node structure might, we might want to give it something. And thus, an edge in an undirected get graph, would be each child, like each node contains the childs it's connected to, the children it's connected to. So I think a way to test this would be to do something like graph. I need a way to get the node and check that its its children has A has a child of B and B has a child of A. Another way might be to also say every graph should be able to spit out the edges it has. We might get to that. We'll see. So what I'm going to do is get node A, and I'll make a method called get node that returns it. And so we'll have to add that to get node. But we'll get the node back, and we'll want children includes B, and we'll expect graph get node B children includes A. Oh, and I need to write to be true. To be true. And then my get node is going to fail right now. So I'll make the test for that really quick too. Add node A, expect get node A to be defined. We'll just do that for now. It doesn't exist. We want our node to be defined. We'll save this. We'll get a bunch of failed tests. Yeah, I saw the bar go red for a little while. Like I said, internet's really crappy. I don't know why, and I'm not really sure even what I can do to improve it. It's totally possible my wife is streaming something right now. We talk about it, but I know she's trying to do some research for some job stuff. So I really apologize about the internet. I don't know what else to do. I pay a lot of money and I get shit service, and I wanna hurt people, but can't really do that. If any of you have recommendations for Wi-Fi extenders, like something like that, that would be something I'd appreciate. Maybe give me an Amazon link in the chat, because that's the only thing I can think to do to try and boost it a little bit more. We do have our Wi-Fi centrally located in our apartment, but sometimes it's a little spotty out here. So I really apologize about that, but I also don't know what else to do. I can see that it's red right now, and I'm probably frozen. So Thank you for the shout out to the beard Juddy. Beard Shevlin is hanging in there very well. He's doing a good job today. He's looking good. Um, if you don't understand what Juddy is talking about, I have a Twitter account for my beard. It's stupid, I know, but it's just funny. It's funny to like make funny jokes or give beard grooming tips from the perspective of my beard. My beard has a very dignified voice, and he might be bent on world domination. I don't know, but you know, you gotta have some fun in life. I've had a lot of stress the last few weeks, and you know, having that as a outlet has been kind of fun. All right, let's go through our red tests and try and fix them up. We've got the first one, get node. Get node is not a function. So I want to be able to get a node. So let's call get node. And I'm passing it something. And I need to return it a node. So in this case, we're going to return... Right now, nodes is an array. I'm given an item, so I kind of need to nodes.find n and return n equals node. And that should satisfy that one for now. And it did. Get node is passing. Now add edge. Add edge is not a function, so we need to add the add edge function. And we needed to take node 1 and node 2, and we'll just save there, get to the next part of there. One of the great things about TDD is it kind of tells you along the way like what it's missing, right? So like, okay, type error, cannot read property includes of undefined. Children is undefined. Well, oh snap. Get node is returning something that doesn't have children, and this kind of backs us all the way up, and we might have to refactor our tests. So what I kind of want to do here is I want to create a function create node, and maybe I need to test this now because the node should get a key and it'll do some things. So let's add some tests for that. I'm going to add them in the same file, and I will, let's make sure we export it. My computer sounds like it's about to take off. That fan is blowing hard. All right. Let node before each, we're gonna create, can we create it? We need to give it a key, so let's not do this, we'll just do it in each test. All right, test existence, okay, we're going to expect it to be defined. Good golly, they're taking forever. Okay, node existence fails. So let's go back up and let's return something. I'm going to return an object. It's a factory function. Like, you don't understand. Like, my tests are done before I can even look at them when I'm not running OBS. I'm gonna have to. I wish I knew how to like get something that could make it could make it better. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so let's see. Create node is not defined. I didn't import it because I'm a dummy. But see, this is, like I said, like test-driven development helps you find bugs. Oh, come on. Okay, existence passes. We want to test that its key exists. Test key property. const node equals create node A, expect node key to equal A. And you could do you can bunch these together if they make sense to you. You can do other things. Okay, key is undefined. Well, that's because we're not returning it. So looking that up on the object doesn't exist. So we save that. This should pass it. You know, I'm no expert at testing. There are people who have loads and loads more experience than me. This is the way I know how to do things and the best way I know how to teach it right now. So if you have better advice than me, feel free to share it in the chat or feel free to mention it somewhere. Brosif says, do you have recommendations where I can learn more about TDD, things like what to test, patterns? So there's all sorts of resources out there. Honestly, a lot of my resources have been I'm trying to think of where I've even seen things, like probably some mix of Egghead lessons and front-end masters lessons. I do know Kent C. Dodds is pushing his testingjavascript.com, that course, really hard right now. And honestly, it's probably amazing. I didn't buy one because I feel pretty confident in most of what he's going to teach. There was one module I really wanted, specifically the Cypress end-to-end testing module. But yeah, it didn't feel like something I needed, but I'm sure other people could really get a lot of value out of it. So check it out. That's testingjavascript.com. Maybe one of y'all can type it out in the chat for someone. We need to test and children. So constant. Okay, so now we're starting to get let node before each and I'll just fill it with A. And then children should be expect node children to be defined. We also want to expect it to be an array, so array.is is array. That's what it is. And those Juddy's like the Cypress module was the one I didn't want. Well, I feel pretty strongly like that I know how to do unit testing and to some degree integration testing. Okay, children is undefined. Let's get that passing. So children, we can just make it an array for now. It'll get a pass, but this is why you just make it pass with the easiest thing, and then you make it more complicated. Now when you have children, each node should have a method to add a child, right? Because how does that node get children if you don't have a way to add it? So node.add child b, and we want to expect node.children to have a length that's equal to 1. Expect node.children includes b to be true, and yeah, that should work, right? Yeah, that's pretty decent for starting here. So add child should fail. So add child is not a function. We're going to go back. We're going to make an add child function here. And like I said, this is a little ridiculous that I'm saving it and letting it fail so much, but it's kind of really the process you go through, and once you have the process like nailed, like yeah, it's not a big deal. Okay. Expected value 1 and received 0. Well, this is because it's kind of hard to return that. I could do return this dot children, but that's still not adding anything. So first off, let's give it a node, and then I'm gonna jump a couple steps ahead, but we'll make an array here, const children, and we're gonna have children push node. Now here's the thing, when I call children, this will just be a reference to this. This might be an error, I'm trying to remember, but I might need to use a getter. So add a child worked. Great. Okay. So now that we have that, we're all the way down to cannot read property includes of undefined. So we've got our nodes all passing. We could maybe delete a child later, stuff like that. This is kind of where you have to decide how you want to define your API. Since I'm going to be teaching this as an egghead course, I want this lesson to be relatively short, like something I can get through in less than 10 minutes or so. Because I find, like, well, studies show like the average attention span is only like 7 minutes. The fact that y'all put up with me for like 2 hours is kind of cray-cray if you think about it. So yeah, I like to try and keep lesson videos really, really short. That's just my jam, I guess. Do I use TDD on personal projects? Depends on the project. If I'm doing like logic, like I'm creating an API like this, or building out, for instance, a fun little side project I've been working on for a while is a golf stat tracking app. Some of you might know that I'm an avid golfer. I was a collegiate All-American. It's something I really cared about and something I really wanted to do, and I didn't get to do it. Oh well, things happen. But I like the idea of being able to track it, and I have this idea in the back of my mind that if I ever get it done and make it really nice, I can sell it to people, because golfers are the kind of people that buy all sorts of things. So who knows, little side moolah, side income coming in. But that has a lot of logic in it, because it's all math. It's all these things like dividing how many holes I've done this and done that and done blah, 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 blah. So TDD makes a lot of sense there. It's really easy to like create the test and then create the API. When I'm making something that's more like it's just a bunch of stuff on a page, like maybe a landing page for something, no. I'm saving tests for the things that I need to have trust and insurance that it's going to work the way I expect. And for side personal projects, like, momentum matters, right? Like if I don't get it done and do stuff quickly, then I'll lose momentum or something will come up. I have I have wife and friends and cats and obligations that just get in the way of getting stuff done. When you're at work, though, story's totally different, right? Like, because what you write, it makes money. Like, what you're doing at work, like, matters so much more than what I do on a side project. Like, when you're doing stuff for somebody and like their money is on the line, or their reputation even is on the line, like, you need to know why things break or why things work or don't work, right? And so I think it makes a lot of sense to make sure your code is tested. When you go to a job interview and they have you doing coding, it's a good thing to ask, hey, do you want tests when I'm doing this? You know, they might dock you because you don't think to do tests. At least ask, you know? And hopefully you know enough to be able to pull it off if you do. But it's something worth asking. Just thought I'd say that. Okay. So, all right, I've kind of lost train of thought. It's going to take me a second to get it back. Jesse Skinner says, hey, wow, great to see you. Great to see you too, Jesse. Hope you're doing well. I'll probably start doing this a little bit more. I want to answer some questions. Spudnik already answered his question about what I'm doing. Broseph asked, the IntelliSense, do you use... Yeah. I already answered that. Okay. Yeah, dope, cool. All right, let's get back to it. Um, Now I've changed the node to some degree, so I kind of want to update the tests for add node and get those breaking again. So in a graph, I said add node A. Graph.nodes includes A to be true. Okay, well, yes, it does include A, but I want to use my new structure, right? So we're going to do create node of key, and we're going to change this to key. And now my test will fail because it's not what it was expecting. But we're going to use the new node structure that we created up there. So in add node, we expected true, we got false because we're doing includes, and we don't have a way to. So nodes comes back with more than that. We could do maybe nodes map and return n.key dot includes, and that should pass it. Here might be somewhere where we want to add a method that makes it simpler. We're kind of testing some random shit almost in our. We're almost testing our knowledge of JavaScript itself instead of what we're doing right here. This might be a smell to some people, but for right now, it's got the test passing. That's cool. All right, but in get node, we expect the node to be get node A to be defined, and right now it's not. So let's go back. Get node return nodes.find. Well, yeah, it can't find the right node, and a find on an array returns undefined if it can't find it. So we need to fix this. What we're actually getting is get node with a key, and what we're gonna do is we want end key to match the key getting passed in. All right, so get node worked, but I don't think our test was very robust. We just wanted it to be defined. Let's see. Does that make sense? That's probably good enough. Okay, so that means down here in our add edge, which is the one that's failing now. Okay, so we expected it to include B, and it's true, and include A. So our add ed function isn't adding children to the right places yet, which makes sense because we ain't doing anything in it yet. All right, so how does our add edge work? Well, what we want to do is we're going to use the add child method on our nodes to add each child to each other. But we're going to double up some stuff here, and we're gonna do it a little bit differently if it's directed versus undirected. Let's start with the undirected version because that's what we've been working with so far. So one thing we can do is we can make a decision here on how we want our users to use our graph. Let's say they want to add an edge, but they give me two values, two keys. In fact, I'm going to name this node 1 key and node 2 key, because that's what I'm going to expect them to do. I'm going to expect them to give me the keys. Okay, what I can say is if these keys don't exist, make a node, put it in there, make an edge. We could do that. Or the other option is we could say, if that key doesn't exist in our nodes currently, throw an error. Tell them, you know what, buddy, bucko, I mixed the two together in my head. That was stupid. Oh well. I'm also looking at this because I used to have my camera over here. I'm forgetting I've moved you up here. We could say, like, if that node doesn't exist, you know what? We're going to throw an error and we're going to tell you it doesn't exist. I'm a little inclined to do that, to be honest. But before we do that, let's just get our test passing. So we need to get the node 1 and then add its child, and then we need to get node 2 and add the other child. That's what we do here. So we're gonna get node 1 equals this dot get node 1 key. I had to think for a second. I'm not sure I love this API, but that's actually kind of why I'm doing the stream, is because I wasn't loving the work I was doing earlier, and I thought maybe y'all'd have something to say. So now I have these two nodes, and for node 1, we're going to add child node 2, and in node 2, we're going to add child node 1. That's because this is an undirected graph, and those edges should match. So we'll do this. It should still fail though, because we're just checking that the children includes B and includes A, but really like they include a full node, right? So does that make sense? I want to make sure I'm saying something that actually makes sense. Okay, let's look at our test. Graph.getNodeA. So that should return node A. That should give you the children, but the children is full of nodes as well. So includes B doesn't make sense. I need to do children.map and get keys. So, all right. So I have the children, but I want to test that the keys exist to make it work. So we'll do c.key, or, you know, children. C is stupid because it's children, but I know they're a node. So let's just call it node. Includes B. And then in this one, dot map node dot key includes A. Broseph asked the question, would it be a bad idea to add an optional Boolean argument that allows for creating nodes that don't exist? No, I don't think it's a bad idea, and this is precisely what I'm saying. Like, you get to choose to some degree what API you want to offer people. So, I forgot a dot, and it's even telling me. Coding Tacos is now following. Thank you, Coding Tacos. Appreciate it. Okay, and looks like we got our test passing. Sweet. All right. So we're not done yet. We've been able to add nodes and add edges, but it really doesn't do us much good to not really be able to look at the graph and see what's going on at any given time. So things we might want to add are we might want to be able to get the nodes and receive back some data structure that's all the nodes in a graph. We might want to be able to get the edges and receive some data structure that gives us all of the edges. And maybe a really useful one would be a print function that would be, or a toString function, whatever you want to call it, something that when we call graph print, we see an output of each node and then its children or something like that. So we're going to keep adding some APIs. I want to look at this. Juddy, it's your dulcet tones that keep us here, Kyle. Oh, thank you, Juddy. Juddy, I think if I'm remembering right, he's coming to us all the way from New Zealand, and I really appreciate it. I think that's awesome. I love that our community. I keep doing this. I'm looking at the mic. Y'all are up there. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. I put you up there because he used to be right here. But then I got this fancy mic stand, and it kind of gets in the way. And then I'm like, I could put the camera over here, but then you're staring at, there's no good view in here. Y'all need to, like, give me some donations or some shit for the green screen. No, I'm just kidding. You don't need to do that. But that's what I should do. I should get I should green screen this fucker up, right? Like, get the green screen. We could put some random crap on there or something. That's what I need to do. But then I could put the camera anywhere, and I wouldn't have to feel weird about whether you're seeing my random ass closet shit and my workbench or my wife's desk or all that crap. So back to getting focused. I know you're here for all the entertainment, but I sound like TJ Miller. Uh, I don't think I sound like him. But I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult, brosif. I'm not sure. But anyways, he is he's a hoot. Sad he's not on Silicon Valley anymore. I don't really know what happened there, but he's fun dude. He's also like not gonna be in the next Deadpool too, I think, or something like some shit. I think that guy might have a, I don't know, maybe he has some problems. I hope everything works out. I hope everything gets figured out. I don't know. So we need to add some more tests. We need shit that breaks. All right. Well, let's do that print function. No, let's do nodes. Because our graph, are we already getting the nodes? I don't think I ever thought. No, we're not getting the nodes. So I want to get the nodes, and I want to get back something that just has all the nodes in it. So graph add node A, graph dot add node B. I know y'all who are new here don't know it, but like I literally sing this shit out while I'm at home. That kind of thing. I'm so weird. But I think we're all weird. Some of us just embrace it better than others, and some of us hide it more than others. That's really all it comes down to. But I think if you want to find good people in your life to be around you, personally, my personal philosophy, this don't work for everyone, but like find people who don't mind you're weird, or maybe even like it, enjoy it. It's probably the biggest blessing in my marriage, honestly, is that we both get to be the exact weirdos we are in front of each other, and I don't know, man. That's so awesome. Uh, that's so important. Finding someone that lets you be you. So if that's something that means something to you, I totally think there are people out there who don't need or want partners or that kind of thing. But if you do, this is my random life advice from Kyle. I told you this is always more than you asked for. You always get more than you asked for. That's my random life advice for you. Embrace that weird. It's coding tacos, just put. Okay, so I'm going to expect graph.nodes, to be defined. That might be overkill. I probably don't need to say that, but I just also expect it to have a length of to equal 2, I guess. I don't really want to. I could test its contents, I guess, but that's more testing that includes that add node is working. How did I do this? Graph.nodes. Oh, I already do have it working. So I might not need this test. I didn't really think about that. I think I got it by proxy. Sometimes that happens too. Yeah, I got everything I needed in there. So, can I bump up my microphone volume for you? Yeah, I can make it more sensitive is really all I can do. Hopefully that's not too sensitive for you. Um, uh, I'd one thing that you don't really have, at least I don't have on my input output device, is any kind of gain control. I only have essentially, well, I do have a gain control, which essentially changes the sensitivity of the mic. But a lot of times I want to tell people turn your volume up. Just kidding, Dan. But yeah, hopefully that's better. Cool. I could test edges. This one's the toughest one. If I ask for the edges of a graph, I gotta come up with some kind of crazy ass data structure that shows you all these edges. Oh, let's do it. Let's go through hell. Let's do it. Let's make something edges. Okay, we need to add a bunch of nodes. So we'll graph dot add node A. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna scroll this up so it's a little higher up in the screen. Add B and C. Okay, we need to add some edges. Graph dot add edge A to B. Graph dot add edge. We'll literally put an edge to all of them, A to C, and then graph dot add edge B to C. Okay, so now we have 3 edges. Oh, I forgot to test anything. I think that's a mistake. That might even tell me, oh, no mistake. Expect, what do we want our graph to do? Graph edges to be defined. Expect graph edges length to equal 3. I guess it could be an array. And then, you know, maybe we want to do some kind of, we just want to match the edges or what we thought we were, but we already know how to check that edges exist. So it's not defined, so let's do that. We'll put it here, edges. Well, what should it be? Well, I said an array, so we'll do that. Okay, so it's defined, but its value isn't 3. Why? Because we're not adding anything to it. So we got to figure out a way to do that. Let's do this. We'll do const edges equal an array. Remove this, save it. Same thing should happen. Okay, we need a way that when we add an edge, we're pushing something into that edges array. And we also need it to, so here's an interesting problem. So in an undirected graph, we can have, in an undirected graph, we just assume that each edge is symmetrical, right? So when I create a node, an edge of A to B, it's the same as B to A. That's in an undirected graph. In a directed graph, we could assign both. We could assign an edge A to B and an edge B to A, right? So what we kind of need here is we need to verify that no edges are the same. An edge is a set. And I don't know if you know anything about sets. It's a relatively new data structure in JavaScript, but a set is a collection of unique items. No 2 items in a set can be the same. So this might be useful to us, but it's only useful if we find a way to store edges that we can easily say, oh, that's the same edge, you can't make it, or that's the same edge, we just don't do anything with it. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Sometimes I read, why do I keep doing it? I need to move the camera. I keep looking at the mic. I need to look at the camera. Sorry. It's first time having it up there. I'm really screwing up a little bit. But Spudnik asks a question. I'm going to interrupt a little bit. But maybe you touched on this, but did you intentionally not use a class for this? Well, yeah, kind of. Classes are fine. Classes are great. You can use the this keyword in the class, but then you have to bind. You might need to bind some of your methods. There's lots of little things in classes that are kind of annoying, and I really just kind of wanted to deal with plain objects. And I like factory functions. They're fun to me because they're just a little different, and so that's what I chose to do. I also find when I'm getting ready to go through a bunch of like job interviews, right? Because I'm on the job hunt, and I find sometimes when you're in a job interview and you give yourself something like a class where there might be a little nuance somewhere that you miss, something like that. Or maybe they're asking you to extend another class and these things. Like, I think that kind of pressure sometimes can really cause you to flub. That's the kind of thing that, like, I would take my time on when I'm working and I would make sure I get it right. Whereas I'm probably never going to make a mistake with a regular function and returning plain old JavaScript objects. And to be honest, like, the optimizations you get from classes are, you know, at the scale we're going to work on right here, right now, it doesn't really make any difference. And so that's kind of why I like to do it this way. I like factory functions. I kind of classes are really kind of unnecessary in JavaScript. If you think about it, they're just syntactic sugar on functions. Um, that's my opinion. I guess a very mild hot take, but that's kind of my thought. Okay then. All right. So we have our edges, and when we add an edge, we're going to change our add edge a little bit. When we add an edge, we need to put something into our edges array that indicates this combination. So let's just add, let's get the test passing, right? So we've added the child to each one, but we also want to know it's in this graph. So what I'm going to do, since keys are strings, we can do stuff like edges.push node 1 key, node 2 key. And we'll save. And boom, our edges pass. Okay. Now, how does this... Yeah, I'm fine with this for now. We can add some things if we really want to. All right. And the last thing I think we're going to add is we're going to add a print method. Spudnik he admits to all of us that he has a Java background, and so he leans towards them, and that makes perfect sense. I mean, that's a lot of the reason class as a keyword was added to JavaScript was to make it more familiar to people from object-oriented backgrounds and other languages that have class. But I'm sure as a Java developer, maybe there's some nuances you find about JavaScript classes that drive you nuts. Maybe not. Maybe they are very close to what you're used to. I've never written any Java. I've never had either that fortune or misfortune. I'm not sure which one is which in that situation. So, I try my best to like answer questions as well as I can, but I try also to tell people like I have a limited background, and remember, I'm a second career dev. This isn't my first thing, so I'm often learning things just as fast as I possibly can, but I miss things, like I've been doing this 5 years, coding like a total of 6, and I just realized like I have lots of friends who've been doing this 10, 15, even 20 years already, and it just blows my mind the things they know from just having been around longer, experienced different things, different shifts in what they were working on. Yeah, we didn't have to have classes, Juddy, but they're there now, so you got to deal with it. Okay, we're gonna test a print method. That's the last thing I think I'm gonna make. Oh, you've come to the dark side, Spudnik. Good to hear. All right, so I'm gonna add some nodes and edges. And what I really want is when I hit print, print should give us a string output of each node and all its children, like line by line. That's what I'm expecting, and that's the API I'm going to create. So I'm going to do this. Const nodes equals A, B, C, D, E. Actually, I don't know if those are the notes. I doubt it. I doubt it very much. I did give you a major scale there, so I failed somewhere because A, B, C, D, E is a minor scale. And if I had my stuff working, I could hit an A and I could sing it up for you. But I don't have perfect pitch, unfortunately. So nodes dot for each. We're getting a little lazy here. Graph add node. Okay, and then we're going to do a smattering of edges. We'll do the same thing. We'll do const edges will equal a 2D array of A to B. We'll do A to C. This is going to be ridiculous. We'll do A to E. I'm just making this up. We'll do B to D. And we'll do C to D. Okay, I've got a bunch of edges. And then I'm going to also do edges for each. And we'll do, we'll call it N1, N2. Oh, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, I have to just structure them to N1, N2. Or actually, I don't even have to do that. We're going to get fancy here. Fancy. Graph dot add edge, spread the nodes. Okay. Well, actually, we'll call that edge. All right, so now I have a graph of things. Parker's asking what desk I have. It's true. I have a hacked together IKEA desk with the Bacant adjustable legs. It's great. Little hand crank, super cheap, but it works. One of my studio monitors is busted at the moment. I actually just got new capacitors to fix it. I'm actually getting some help from a former colleague at Fastly, of all things, Ryan McKern, to help me solder them in. I've done some soldering before, and I'm okay at it, but I love learning from people who are good at things like that. So he's going to help me fix it up. Shout out to him. I think he's called _McKern, MCKERN on Twitter if you want to follow him. He's very... I'm not sure how to describe him. Like, forthright might be a good word. All right. So we've got a graph put together. What I want to test in the print is, like, when I print it, do I get out what I expect? So expect graph.print to equal. Okay, and this is where it's weird, because I think Prettier is going to really mess with us here. But I want it to look something like this. A is connected to... Get out of my way. I'm trying to read. That is the one thing I hate about it. Like, it's just weird. B, C, and E. Then on a new line... And I'm sure this is going to mess it up, but B should be connected to A and D. On a new line, C should be connected to A and D. D should be connected to B, and E should be connected to A. I think that's all of them. Okay, graph.print is not a function. That's what we expected. We don't have it there. So let's add the print method. Okay, we expected this value, this string, and what we got was undefined. All right. Well, we need to return some kind of string. Is that what that is? It's a tooltip from hovering? All right, thank you, Brosif. I might look into that. I think I have it turned off when I'm in teach mode. I shared a tweet earlier this week about how you can set up profiles for VS Code, which is one of the things that's got me won over a little bit. You can set up profiles that allow you to, like, load it with different extensions and data. And so it's really great for, like, loading right into when I'm making a screencast, because it loads with no IntelliSense, no tooltips, no nothing, and just a few little things. And that makes it super easy for me to like teach without really distractions on the screen. I keep looking over here. I need the camera like right here or something. So like that's what I do. I'll probably be moving the camera back. It's just too natural to do it. All right, return. I don't know why I put it over there. That was weird. Okay, we need to return something. And what it needs to be is like we need each node, and then with each node we need to get its children, and we need to do something. So what we're gonna do is nodes dot map node, and then each node needs to return a string that is key, an arrow, and then node dot key, an arrow, and then node dot children dot map. We need their keys, and return n key. And then we have their keys. We need to join them by a space. And then each one of these, we've now mapped an array. We need to join with a new line. And significantly nicer when it does that. We're going to destructure key and children. I'm weird. I like to do these in alphabetical order. I'll do this just because I find it to tidy things up a little bit. And see how that goes. Okay, so we received this, but we expected that. And what you could see has happened is the indentation actually got put in. And that's what I was afraid of with the test. So what we're going to do is Prettier will obey this. It's ugly, but that's what happens when you're doing this. Okay, D expected B. CD, that's totally true. And boom, our print passes. That's cool. Sweet. What do y'all think? Jesse's telling me to check my last backtick, but I'm not sure what he means. Our tests are passing. Maybe if I put this down here, it'll help show that I have it. I have it right there. The reason my test didn't pass, as I said before, and the reason I knew this because I've kind of coded some of this already. I knew that. Let me put this back to the right. I knew that the print was going to expect this to be over. So there's an interesting thing with template literals in JavaScript. These backticks, what they create, you can do multi-line strings that way with new lines, but it expects it all the way over. Because it sees the tabs or the spaces that you're using as characters, as it should. And then Prettier does this. Like, if I was actually doing this, I might do something like, I don't know. I think I might prefer it something like that, I guess. I don't know. But that's what Prettier does. It moves it over here. It's ugly, but it is what it is. I can maybe leave a note. This is what Prettier does. Sorry, it's fugly. I don't know what else to say about that. What are some other methods you would want to see added to a graph? Anyone have any anything they'd like to see me do. Like maybe we can try. I can probably go for another 40 minutes. I told my wife I'd be done by 9. This is an undirected graph. We could work on making it directed. That's probably a good thing to do with our time. So that's what I'll do. Broseph asked, what are you drinking? I am drinking Widmer Brothers Drop Top. I don't know if you could see that around the shine. It's an amber ale. I really like it. So in the winter time, or it's only fall now, but really in Portland, fall and winter are they're essentially the same with about 10 to 15 degrees difference. That's it. It gets cloudy, it starts raining all the time, and then it just gets colder. It's really the only difference. So when fall comes, I kind of like to shift my beers to being a little bit like maltier and darker. I Will Be Your Dearth is now following. Thank you. Appreciate the follow. Good stuff. Maybe an iterator for the nodes. So AVH4, what do you mean by iterator? I'm curious because do you mean like where like you get it back and literally like you can do node next and go through the children or something like that? Because that could be interesting. In fact, one of the things I'm going to teach in the course is breadth first search and depth first search, and those will be methods added onto the graph in those lessons. And I'm not quite ready to work on coding that right now. I know how to do it. It's one of those things I want to work through a little bit. But yeah, you can maybe do that next. But that would be interesting, because let's say you're doing depth first search. You would go down and you made it an iterator. You would go down the full path. So let's look at our test, like our print, right? So in this case, if we started at node A, you would hit, like, let's say next, you would go to B, and then we're going depth, right? So B would go to D, and then D would go to C, and then that would be the end, because we've already visited A and D. And then we'd come back up and we'd go to B, and or we could start somewhere else, or we could go A to C, and then C goes to D, and then D goes to B, and then B, we've already visited everything in B. Or we could go A to E, E only connects to A, that would be that. So that would be depth first. Breadth first, on the other hand, it goes as wide as it can before going any further. So we'd go, we touch B, C, and E, and then from there we'd go to B, and we'd be like, okay, we've already visited A, so D, and then we'd go to C. We've already visited A and D. We'd go to D, we've already visited D, B, and C, and then we'd go to E, back up, and we've already visited A. So that's kind of how that would work. So node next, like you're saying, basically same way to loop through the nodes one by one without having to get the entire array of them back from the graph at once. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and what you can do right now, you could do, because you can get a node, you could examine its children, and then from there you could get a node from its children, get a node from its children. That might even be part of how we implement breadth first search and depth first search, by using its own API with itself. I mean, that's what you do in classes, that's what you do in Pojos. So that makes sense. I'm going to tackle the directed thing though. So first things first, like we need a way to, when we create the graph, to say it's directed. So we'll just pass in a directed value, but we'll default it to false. You have to say it's directed to make it directed. We'll save, all our tests will pass, because it doesn't do anything right now. We're not using directed anywhere. And where does directed matter? Well, directed really matters when we're adding edges. Let's add a property In fact, let's add a test and verify, and we'll get info back. I'm gonna add this up near the top. Test directed, and what I will do is by default, graph should expect graph directed to equal or to be false. I kind of don't like to be. This is a really weird rant. I kind of like, I use it because it reads naturally. But I think Eric Elliott even wrote about this once in one of his posts on testing. But to equal is, honestly, you could do a lot with just to equal in your tests, because we could do to equal false, to equal true, all those things. And then I'm gonna make a second graph here, and like honestly, triple strict equality, triple equals, is really good for almost all the testing you do. Just saying. I definitely typed directed. Okay. So that should fail. Okay, we received undefined because we don't have a directed key. Juddy, thank you for hanging out. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the, well, honestly, I have no idea what time it is there. You're like 16 hours ahead of me. It's like got to be like the end of your day. All right, so directed is working. I'm going to show you a little trick though. We can use getters and setters to ensure that directed is like a Boolean. Like you could do this with a type system. You could say like directed has to be a Boolean, and then anywhere else you use create graph in your application. That'd be really great. Another way we could do this is like we could do set directed, and when we use the set keyword, it basically becomes a method, and we'll have a bool, and we'll say if type of bool does not equal Boolean. I had to think of how to do this. Then we're going to return false, else return bool, I think is what it is. And then we'll add a getter because we need to tell it what to do when we ask for directed. And we'll just say directed is return. Actually, do I need to get? No, it should just read it. You just need the getter and the setter when. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Received undefined, comparing two different types of. But I'm passing a default value of false. Maybe I am screwing this up. Let's look it up. That's the only way I learn. Setters. This dot. Oh, okay. I don't return anything. Interesting. So this dot directed. I don't use getters and setters very much, but as I've been exploring this, I've had to use them a few times, and so hence why I'm failing in front of you. I don't really worry about that. I fail a lot. It's the only way I've learned. I've taught myself literally like everything I know, and the only way to learn is to fail often. So I'm guessing what is going on. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to read this. The witchcraft I did with the docs is I use Alfred. Alfred's your butler. It's kind of like Spotlight on drugs. And then I have a Dash integration. Dash is a API docs app, and so I can write JavaScript, and I can look through the entire JavaScript documentation from here. And so, and then it popped up. Hold up, where'd it go? There it goes. It popped up, and then I can look at like how it works. Like, okay, language is an object. Current language takes a name. This dot log push name. Log gets pushed, and then so current equals, and you can just see how that works. So yeah, it's Alfred plus dash, and then there's coding tacos beat me to typing it. Thank you very much. I don't know. How many of you use setters? I haven't used them too much. So I don't know. I just thought this might be interesting to try and coerce it into Boolean this way. Alfred's a Mac thing. I think it's a Mac thing. I could be wrong. I'm almost certain it's a Mac thing. Just saying. I want to get this right. It's a shoot. Keep grabbing the wrong thing. Defining a setter. Do I need a get in the same thing? Let's Google it. That's what we do. Getters and setters, JavaScript. Yeah, get would return something. But if I'm not storing it anywhere, it doesn't really help. And then set full name. I set those things. Alright, you know what? I'll just get rid of it. Not a big deal. I will not bore you with all this. They don't have to be in classes, though, Brosif. Just so you know. It's on objects in general. I mean, you guys understand what I was trying to do. I was trying to make sure directed is a Boolean because, like, I can do foo here and it won't be true. Like, my test will fail. That's fine. And that's what we want. We want it to fail. I was just taking a second to explore something. So you have to set it to true to make it work, though. Okay, so if it's directed, when we add an edge, then we need to make some changes. Like when we add an edge in an undirected graph, those edges point both ways, is one way to think about it. When we add an edge in a directed graph, they point in the way we intend. We want it to go from A to B, node 1 to node 2. So we have node 1 to node 2, and then what we're going to do is if directed we'll do the second one. And then we'll change something in our pushes. We might have to, actually. So we have all sorts of things that are breaking because we're not adding the second one in our graphs. Which is fine. That was the point. We wanted to break this. Now we got to fix it. So let's go all the way up. Let's find the first add edge. Okay. So we might want to make add edge now a describe block and have several types of tests. Add edge in a directed graph and add edge in an undirected graph. So let's go to add edge. I'm going to change this to describe. And we're going to go down a level. Test directed. We'll do undirected first. And actually, I just realized I have my code backwards. This shouldn't have broken, but it's okay. I will fix it. This should be if not directed. Add this. I'm just going to do some copy pasting for the directed graph. And even the test, we'll expect A to have child B, but we won't expect child B to have A. So expect children includes to be false. Nice, nice, nice. Actually, it just dawned on me that I can reassign graph here. This might be confusing. That's something I can do. Okay, so we have edges working the way we expect, but our print is only half working. It's working correct for undirected graphs, but it's not working correctly for directed. So I'm also going to add describe print here, and then we'll do test undirected, and everything will get moved up into it. Alrighty, where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go? I think it's this. Yeah. Everything should continue to pass. And then we'll test the directed. Okay, it failed. Oh, because of this. I'm going to comment this out for a minute. Make sure that passes because I moved it. And then we're going to test directed. And we'll do graph equals create graph true. I'm going to copy paste all of this. I'm going to give it a little bit of white space, make it a little legible. I use white space pretty liberally in my code because I find it really helps things be more legible for me. Other people are different, and you know, honestly, it's always been a bit of debate, not debate, but like it's always interesting to join a team and learn how people are different. So A goes to B, A goes to C, A goes to E. That doesn't change, but E going to A should be nothing. B goes to D, but B doesn't go to A. So that should be that. And C goes to D, but doesn't go to A. D doesn't go to anything, and neither does E. So that is what I think I would expect. We'll see what happens. Crossing fingers. Okay. Looks like it's expecting a space, which is sweet. That's not a big deal. It might look, you know what? I just realized I don't think I have a trailing white space extension yet. What's this asshole doing? Trying to find extensions while he's on stream. I bet you I just froze, didn't I? See, what y'all might not realize is over here on my OBS, I have a little indicator in the corner that's telling me how bad my internet is at any given time. And it just went red, so I'm pretty sure y'all saw me frozen for a little bit. I don't know any good chatbot systems, so I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you. So I now have a little trailing white space thing, and I find it funny that it's asking for this here, but wondering if I can do that and get that to pass as a way to like say, hey, there's a space there. I don't know if I need to escape that. I think I might need to. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it escapes that, but let's try this. That way it might be a way to indicate to people that there's one space character here. Okay. I don't know. I could just leave it. It's not as, that's a little, it's lacking robustness to me. Like this test, the fact that I have to leave a space here and here to make it work. It bugs me. So maybe what I could do is come up with a slightly different way to do this. So I need to return the key every time. So what I want to do is if children length do the rest. How am I doing this? What am I doing? How do I want to solve this? And this is just me being peculiar for anything. Okay, so I always need to return the key. Const string equals key. We'll start there. We'll call it result. And we'll say return result. This will get a lot of failure. And then we'll say if children dot length result plus equals and dot map node return node key join a space. That'll work. It'll cause some failures. Okay, why is it failing? Map, node key, dot join. Assignment to constant variable. I called it const. There we go. That makes sense. And then instead of plus equals, we'll do equals. We could do that. Okay. And now we don't have to worry about white space in these tests because it'll just be D. And there we go. So now we've handed cases for our directed and undirected graphs. It only took me, only took me an hour and 45 minutes to do it. Yeah, this seems like a bit of overkill doing it this way. I mean, I don't really mind the concatenation that way. Either way is cool. Whatever your team has decided is a good way to do that. And I think I'm going to save my work here at this point because I think this is good work. There might be more things I want to add, but like I said, this lesson is meant to be an intro. And if I go too deep and too far into it, it could get really confusing to people. I'm sure this is already a little confusing to people, but there you have it, folks. I'm actually gonna commit this. And let's push it up. If you're wondering what FOM is and CI is my git alias to commit, and FOM is push origin master. So I'm committing straight to master here. It's my own repo. It's not something I'm too worried about. So what did y'all think? So that's my first stream in a long time. I got a little quiet there at the end, I feel like, but I hope y'all learned something. I'll stick around. I got 13 more minutes before I said I'd call it quits. If y'all have any questions for me or just want to know what's up or ask me whatever, please ask away or tell me what's been new with you. It's been months since we've been here. Some of you used to follow me. I'd love to hear if there's anything new going on in your life. Yeah. How do you test asynchronous functions? You use async await or promises or something like that. Jest is very capable of handling all that. You just have to await the results. It's a little different if you're trying to test data fetching. You might want to do some mocking of that instead of actually fetching data. That would be really different. It's neat that you're able to stream under Creative. Yeah, I don't know. Do they have a new one? Creative is just where every coder who streams I've seen is under. Do they have a coding thing now? Because I could change it up. But when I signed up the account, Jesse, there wasn't a coding thing. So it's been a while since I've done it. I'm not up to date on everything going on Twitch. Coding Tacos asked how the job search going. I answered this earlier, but you weren't here, so no biggie. It's kind of a mixed bag. I got lots of responses when I put out the tweet that I was looking. Unfortunately, those responses weren't quite what I'm looking for. A lot of little tiny startups reached out to me that's not really what I'm looking for right now in my life. My main goal, one of my main goals in life right now is to pay down all my debts, specifically student loans. I'm finally under 6 figures of debt. Y'all don't realize that is a milestone in and of itself, but I'm down to 5 figures of debt, and I'm thinking if I work really hard I can maybe pay it off. I'm sorry. Oh, I knew I was gonna sneeze. I was just trying to get it to happen. Um, I'm thinking if I work really, really hard, I can get it paid in under 4 years. There's a couple ways to do that, to do it so aggressively. Part of that is me trying to make more money on the side via like courses like this and that I'm making and that kind of thing. But you know, a big one would be if I can help my wife find a better job. I don't know. I'll put this out there to anyone. My wife is trying to get into technical writing. She used to be a grant coordinator, and she's done some like little bits of grant writing and writing here and there, and even some technical writing. But she's trying to get her foot in the door. We're in Portland, so she's worked remotely in the past. She would love to do it again. It'd be cool to be a remote family, but she's working on it. But honestly, we get her making more money. That'd be great. And then I get some side hustles going. That would be great. And I really think we can pay it off within 4 years. And honestly, that will be like the greatest relief to make that happen. So part of my job search related to that is like I can't be going after startups that like I don't know if they're going to be here in 6 months or like they're going to pay me mostly in equity. I'm sorry, but that's monopoly money to me right now. I really need something that's more concrete, and so that kind of pushes me to certain companies. Um, so yeah, I'm and so the other things that are kind of restricting it is I want to work remotely. I want to stay in Portland. I don't want to move anywhere. I don't want to move to San Francisco. I don't even like commuting in Portland. Like I live 4.5 miles from downtown, and some days it takes me over an hour to get home. Like traffic sucks. Like I find it insane that we still think offices are important. I think it's bullshit, but you can't change culture that fast. Just can't do it. Trying, but can't do it. Um, and so, yeah, that really limits where I can work. And frankly, there's been issues about who wants to pay me what I used to get paid. Um, so, yeah, I don't know. Job hunts are tough. But I do have hope. I have a few interviews this week and setting up some more interviews for next week. And we'll see what happens. So, yeah, thank you for asking. Um, So science and tech. All right. Well, I'll switch that up when I get back when I sign into Twitch again later. Thank you for the heads up, AVH. I appreciate it. Yeah, maybe she could do some tech writing on Fiverr or stuff like that. Get experience. That's a good idea. Thank you. But yeah, that's how that's going. Good time to quit the stream. I need another beer. I don't ever drink as much as I drink so slow when I'm on stream because I'm just talking so much. Sometimes I can really feel it when I've streamed for a long time or like I haven't streamed in a while. You can actually tell like, oh, I'm forgetting to talk or maybe I'm talking to. It's interesting. So I recommend everyone try streaming at some point because I think it actually makes you better at job interviews, right? Because you get so stressed out that someone's watching you do your work or maybe it's just challenging to describe what you're doing as you do it, and learning to stream really helps you gain that skill. Being comfortable with speaking out your thought process, because that's what people want to hear in a job interview. They want to hear what you're thinking, and most of us aren't. Most of us don't. We don't say what we're thinking. That's kind of the point, right? We keep it in here and then we filter what comes out. So it takes practice to learn how to actually do it at the same time. So yeah. Jesse's got a beer stein up there. Thank you, Jesse. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Have you tried React hooks? Yeah, I've messed a little bit with it this morning. I watched the talk on it. I think it's really fascinating. I'm really curious what changes with the testing story, because we go from having, what are mostly pure functions to not. Like, how do we make sure we test these and that kind of thing? Yeah, so I'm gonna wait for it to play out a little bit more. I haven't dove into suspense yet. I need to. I've just been really busy, like working on this course and some other things. I've been putting out some egghead videos. I have an egghead video on how to create a custom provider component for MDX Deck. I have an egghead video that's probably going to get published tomorrow on how to get started with XState, the state machine library. And then this course, man, I got to pump it out in like 2 weeks. So I got to do quite a bit of work to get it going. And get it done so they can do all the things they need to do to have it ready for December. I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm excited for the little bump in pay I'll get around the holidays. That's gonna be good. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Hook. I do sense, like, I do get the I've seen a lot of tweets and I kind of agree with them. All the people are like, dude, you don't need to make a bunch of React hooks in a library, like, when it's still unstable and might change. And I kind of agree with them there. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Coding Tacos is where you're releasing your course. This course will be on Egghead first. I am working on so another thing I'm working on, if y'all didn't know, I have a newsletter. Like, you can sign up for it. I should add that as a custom command. But if you go to buttondown.email/Kyle Shevlin, if you're not signed up for it already, please do. Sign up for the newsletter. Every 2 weeks, I put out a post, and it contains a lot of thoughts and updates on what's going on in my life and coding. But I also write something. I write a post. Sometimes it's technical. For the most part, it's more philosophical to some degree. I really enjoy writing those kind of things, anecdotal kind of stuff. But I mentioned in there that I'm building a beginner's React course called React 101. I'm building the website right now, the landing page. I'm working with the people at Button Down to be able to get the email API working correctly, so that if you're already subscribed to the newsletter, it doesn't resubscribe you and all these things. So working with the guy over there. But React 101 is going to be released on my own, kind of like, Wes Boss style, but nowhere near that. Man, that dude's been doing it so long. He's such a pro. This is my first try. We'll see what happens. But most of y'all will probably already know this, but there might be people who can benefit from it. We got to remember, React is still growing. There's beginners coming to this every day. So React 101 course will be like really intro stuff all the way back to like React.createElement and how to get started. And then I'll progress and I'll have more advanced courses, and they'll all be like individually sold, or maybe I'll sell a membership where you get all of them together, like the future ones. I don't know. We'll figure it out. There'll be a fair price. But the idea would be, I kind of want to teach all the things, not everything, but even the old stuff that'll go out of fashion, like classes, because, you never know what you might be expected to work on. You might come into a legacy code base. I've done that 2 or 3 times in my life, where I go to a job and I'm put on older code, and you have to know how it works. So that's part of what I've been working on. So I've been working on a lot of things, while I've been without a job. So I haven't failed at staying busy. I've been plenty busy. Bros Vass, how have I been? Taking care of yourself? Always doing the best I can. Life's got a lot of ups and downs. Frankly, life's pretty stressful in some ways. Both my wife and I aren't super jazzed about the work situations we are in. Me not finding what I really want, and her not really getting the career going she wants. It's been a challenge. Like, that's been part of our marriage the whole time. There's never been a time where both of us have had a job we liked. She had a job she liked for a while I didn't like the jobs I've had, and vice versa. And one day, if we ever get it to work, both of us figuring out what we want, man, it's gonna, you don't understand. Like, if you're in a partnership, you get it. You totally get it. But when your partner's not happy, and especially if you're not happy too, it's really challenging. Other ways I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm jumping rope a little bit now. I bought a pull-up bar. Actually, it looks like my wife took it down. It sits in the doorway here. I can do 3. I'm not light. I'm 5'9", but I'm like 195, almost 200 pounds. It's not easy for me to do pull-ups, but I got to start losing some weight, get stronger. I want to get my back stronger and my shoulders. I have a bad right shoulder, so working on that. Doing a lot of body weight fitness. The beer's not helping, but if I can just do more aerobic exercise, I get strong. It's stronger. Stronger is the one that bothers me. I'm not as strong as I used to be, and I know I'm getting old, and that shit happens. But it's like I'm not ready to be weak yet. So time to put in the work. Time to sweat a little. So y'all feel me? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's almost 9 o'clock, and as I said, I'm gonna cut it off here at 9. Go spend the rest of the evening with my wife and hang out with her. And yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you for chilling with me and streaming. I'll probably stream more of the work I'm doing for this course because it's just good material, and streaming it makes me work. It makes me sit down and do it. I can't procrastinate because I got to do it for y'all. So take care of yourself to the next time. Thank you for hanging out, and peace.